You know that feeling, right? You're having a perfectly normal conversation, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, it just explodes into a massive argument. It's confusing, it's frustrating, and it happens all the time. Today, we're going to get into the neuroscience of why our communication escalates like that. So, this is the big question, isn't it? How on earth does a simple chat about taking the bins out spiral into a huge fight? Well, it turns out the answer has very little to do with who's right or wrong, and almost everything to do with what's going on inside our own heads. All right, let's dive right in. The most important thing to grasp is that these huge blow-ups hardly ever start because someone wants to fight. It's more of an automatic process, really, one that's driven by the way our nervous systems react when they feel under threat.
Yeah, this is so key. Just forget the idea that there's a good guy and a bad guy in an argument. Instead, I want you to picture two separate nervous systems, both hardwired for survival, trying to interact while they're under a bit of stress. The conflict you're having, it's just a side effect of that interaction, not the original plan.
Okay, to really understand this, we're going to use a framework called traffic light processing. It's a really simple way to picture what's happening internally. And we have to start with the most critical state when it comes to conflict, what we call the red state.
So what exactly is the red state? Well, it's a full-on physiological threat response. Your brain's alarm system is ringing, and your main goal is no longer about connecting with your partner. It's shifted completely to protecting yourself. It's a survival instinct kicking in.
And here you can see the problem in a nutshell. Once one person's alarm system goes off and they enter that red state, it becomes incredibly difficult for the other person not to follow. Connection just goes out the window because now both brains are stuck in survival mode.
This really shows the contrast. When you're in a green state, your prefrontal cortex, think of it as the rational driver of your brain, is in charge. You can see the big picture, you can feel empathy. But in a red state, the amygdala, your brain's very twitchy alarm system, has hijacked the controls. Your thinking becomes narrow, and your only focus is on that immediate threat.
And this brings us to something really crucial. These states, they're not contained to just one person. They are, for all intents and purposes, contagious. The science behind this is called co-regulation, and it's the reason we so often pull each other into conflict without even realizing it.
You see, we're social animals. It's just baked into our DNA. Our nervous systems are built to constantly scan each other for tiny cues of either safety or danger. It's happening all the time, in the background, completely unconsciously.
And the signals we're picking up on are incredibly subtle. A slight change in vocal tone, a clenched jaw, someone's shoulders tensing up, even the pace of their speech, or a sudden silence. Our brain's alarm system processes all of that as a potential threat in a fraction of a second, way before our conscious mind is even caught up.
So, if our brains are basically designed to react this way, what are the common things that actually flip that switch? Let's take a look at the most frequent triggers that push us into that red state.
A really big one is just a simple state mismatch. One person is already tired or stressed. Their fuel tank is basically empty. Another is misinterpretation, where a totally neutral comment is somehow heard as a major criticism. And of course, there's that classic pursue-withdraw cycle, where one partner pushes for answers and the other, feeling totally overwhelmed, just shuts down. It's exactly what the researcher John Gottman calls physiological flooding, a nervous system response, not a character flaw. And this is what that feels like, isn't it? Like you're both on these separate, colliding tracks. You're stuck in your own reactive bubble, and you literally can't see things from their perspective. And you both feel completely justified because from your brain's point of view, you're just defending yourself from a very real threat. This is such a powerful way to reframe it. We have this tendency to blame conflict on personality. You know, you're just too sensitive, or you always shut down. But so often, the real issue is just the physiological load. The brain is simply overwhelmed and out of resources. And of course, it's also so important to recognize that we don't all start on a level playing field. Things like neurodivergence, our personal histories with trauma, or even just our different needs for connection and space, they all play a massive role in how quickly our threat detection system gets triggered. Okay, so we've got a good handle on the problem. But the great news is, there's a very clear way out of it. So now we're going to talk about what might just be the single most important skill in any relationship, the art of repair. If you remember one thing, make it this. Regulation has to come before resolution. You simply cannot solve a complex emotional problem when you are in a red state. It is neurologically impossible.
The only priority in that moment is to get both of your nervous systems back to a place of safety. You've got to sort out the physiology before you can even think about tackling the problem.
And let's be really clear here. The goal is not to have a relationship with zero conflict. That's a fantasy. Every single couple enters the red state from time to time. The real skill, the thing that makes a relationship strong, is how quickly and effectively you can spot it, pause it, and then find your way back to green.
So here's your practical toolkit. First, you have to build the self-awareness to just notice the shift is happening. Second, and this is by far the hardest part, you have to pause the conversation. Stop digging the hole deeper. Third, each of you needs to take a moment to regulate your own nervous system. And only then, maybe much later, can you come back to resolve the original issue.
This is the goal. It's not about winning the argument or proving you were right. It's about returning to a state of shared safety where you can actually connect again. That's where the real solutions are found, and that's how relationships actually get stronger over time.
So what's the massive takeaway from all of this? Well, it's really about a fundamental shift in how you see things, moving away from a culture of blame and towards one of understanding. And it all starts by asking a totally different kind of question when things get heated.
Honestly, when you can look at an argument and see it for what it is, a collision between two dysregulated nervous systems, rather than some deep character flaw in your partner, the entire dynamic changes. Blame just melts away, and in its place, you can start to build genuine safety and compassion.
And that is the question I want to leave you with. The next time you feel that familiar heat of an argument starting to rise, just try to pause and ask this. It instantly moves you from being opponents to being teammates, both trying to solve the shared problem of dysregulation. And that shift, well, that's what builds relationships that truly last.